Because I think you've got a pretty good idea what the national perception on Clemson football is right now. And I think much of that is because of the success was so incredible for 10 years that, nobody's predicting any kind of demise or that it's plummeting, but that it's plateaued and it's just kind of hanging there on the fringe of the top 10. And by all indicators of the Notre Dame and Tennessee and South Carolina games last year, and by the indicators of what's going on in the ACC and the rise of Florida State and recruiting is still good, but it's not phenomenal. That there's just this, I think, this mindset across the nation that Clemson's just kind of, hovering below the elite and that they've lost that status.
I think this is a big year for Clemson. On the offensive side of the ball, I know you got Garrett Riley and you're bringing in the new offense, but we've yet to see it. So there's still a lot of questions. We've seen this offense be fairly inept for 2 consecutive seasons, and to think it's not hurting Clemson with some guys on the recruiting trail would absolutely be naive, because it is. You see some of these elite receivers and they see this offense the past 2 years, you got to be at least a little bit weary, and you're not going to be able to sell some of these guys on this new offense until they see it. If this is a big year for Clemson, like they want it to be, maybe you start selling to some of those guys in the 2025 class. A lot of the 2024 class will already be locked up by the time we get to the end of the season. But, yeah, this is a big season for Clemson. I absolutely agree with that. They kind of teetering right there, right below the elites, but, in that next group right under those guys, right under Georgia and Ohio State and Alabama the past couple of years. They need to make a playoff run to kind of silence some of those doubters this year.
And when I say that, at least, I'm not selling them short in any such way, because if you want to put them in that group, and obviously that's based on the last 2 seasons, they're the one in that group that's shown that they can be all of that, and they can be the best in the country. So Dabo's proven that. James Franklin needs to prove that. Marcus Freeman needs to prove that at Notre Dame. Those programs haven't done it. So Dabo's, if you believe that he's slipped from the elite, at least he's shown that he can be for a long, long time. So there's got to be some faith and trust in his ability.
I don't think Dabo would have fired Brandon Streeter just to go hire a new offensive coordinator. It had to be the right guy, and I think it might have only been for Garrett Riley. I don't know. But the fact that he did that, made that move after just 1 season, I think that speaks volumes about what Dabo Swinney thinks of his program. He's seen it kind of slip the past couple of years. He knows that offense needs to be, overhauled, so to speak. They need a new system in place. It was getting kind of stale. And I don't think, as much as I like Brandon Streeter, I don't think he's that guy. I don't think he's the guy to overhaul and install a new offense. And that's why you bring Garrett Riley in there. I think Dabo knocked it out of the park. And I get it. I get the doubt. I get the hesitation to think Clemson can crawl back into those into that group with those top 4 or 5 schools. I would never bet against Dabo Swinney, though, man. Like you said, he's proved that he can do it, and I think he's still as hungry as he's ever been.
We had you on last week to talk about this ACC 7 schools that got together with the lawyers and reviewing the grant of rights and all of that. So has Dabo Swinney ever made any comments about any of this realignment talk, or whether he backs the ACC or wants to stay in the ACC, or has any thoughts about it whatsoever that he's at least made public?
He was asked about it the other day at one of the Prowl and Growl stops. It might have been yesterday. He's been asked about it before. He doesn't say a whole lot about it. He kind of toes the company line publicly. They're in the ACC. They're going to do what they can for the ACC. But Graham Neff, he said on more than one occasion, he said, on one hand that they are firmly in the ACC, doing whatever they can to help the ACC. He's also said multiple times that they've got to look out for Clemson and do what's best for Clemson. And what's best for Clemson 5 years from now I don't see how being in the ACC is going to be what's best for Clemson. 5 years from now, I don't think Clemson is in the ACC. I mean, it's just when you start looking at the money that the Big Ten and the SEC is going to be bringing in compared to what the ACC schools will be bringing in, it's not sustainable. I don't care if you go to an unequal revenue distribution model. It's not sustainable. I mean, we're talking about schools maybe getting an extra $5, maybe $10 million, and that's just not nearly enough to make up a $30-40 million gap each and every year.
Absolutely. Folks, we posted a video looking at Clemson's recent performances last 20 years against the SEC, did a similar video against the Big Ten. Check them out. And we've provided all sorts of conversations here with Jason on the subject and over on the main channel. So check out the content.